Disclaimer, this is a free Sonic fan game. No, I won't talk about the quote-unquote controversial Patreon, because if you look at anything on Twitter that has commission next to their name or post, you'd see a lot of people making money from IPs that are not owned by them. But if you do want the team making this fan game to continue living, having better equipment, voice actors, and etc., go show them some support if you can. Otherwise, shut up and play this free game. It's literally that simple. So, remember 2020? Man, what a year that was. A 3-week stay at home that turned into a 1 year and 3/4 stressful and overall a distant memory that I'd rather not think nor go back to. But to stop stalling, Sonic 2020, or as it's called now, Sonic Omens, a fan game being worked on by Ouroboros Studio led by Bolt, whose YouTube channel I'll link down in the description below. So, Sonic Omens is a game that, as much as I would hear people talk about the game, I was too busy and didn't have any time whatsoever to play anything, to be honest. 2020 was just not the best year. For me, the year was good money earned, but with my occupation, it wasn't the best position anyone would volunteer for. But since that experience is over with and 2022 is here, I decided to give it a try since I had enough time to forget the game and it would feel pretty fresh to play. So before we go into the game, here's the laydown you need to know if you want to play the game yourself. My PC specs are pretty set, so if you don't have any of these in your setup, you might want to upgrade your PC or get a gaming laptop, but I wouldn't completely recommend doing that just for a fan game. Now, for story purposes, this game takes place between Sonic Unleashed and Sonic Lost World, and it's intended to explain why the emeralds aren't used in the games after Unleashed, which is a pretty good start to go off of and makes me really curious on how this story will go and really hope that the team working on it completes it. The opening logos, the title screen sporting Angel Island in the background, as well as windmills from Unleashed, I'm assuming. Also, the menu UI looks all nice. I definitely love how natural it felt. I went to change some graphic settings, and without any button prompts on screen, I automatically knew it was either going to be the trigger or shoulder buttons, and it just worked. Just wanted to have that out there. Also, as another disclaimer, I did play on an out-of-date version before realizing why I had issues with one of the levels. I'll explain later. There is a 2-player mode, but because I have no friends, I just had to play solo. So, you know, I just guess it was a racing mode of some sorts and continue on with the new game. So the game opens up with an autumn feel to it. The camera pans to the right to show references and callbacks as far from Chip's bracelet, which actually gets used in game, a purple crystal with 3 feathers assuming that belong to Blaze, Sonic not replying to Amy's messages for their date, a chili dog, and at the same time that same theme from Sonic X, anytime like it'd be a new cutscene or Sonic would do some heroic type stuff, audio in the background, and Challenge Space. And finally, the blue blur himself, just resting in classic Sonic X fashion on the windowsill. Tails gives Sonic the heads up on what Eggman's been up to, and the first thing I noticed was how out of sync the subtitles were. So hopefully that gets fixed, unless that's a Sonic Adventure 2 battle reference, but it occurred one too many times for me to actually believe that. But besides that, Tails and Sonic's voice actors do a pretty good job implementing their voices into the characters, even though some dialogue choices seem out of the characters' attitudes at times, but that's a scripting thing. I won't hold them to it. Now after the cutscene is done, we take control of Sonic and can have a full showcase of Tails' new workshop and airstrip, which in itself is pretty amazing. Now I do have to say, I wish the hint markers would have voice acting to it, considering the fast gameplay. The last thing you want to do is stop to read some text. But after taking control of Sonic and Wellspring, this level acts as a tutorial for players, although in all honesty, it feels like it would throw a lot of newcomers to fan games away, since the first hint in the game tells you to refer to the control screen. Which is fine until you see it all, and me, I'm fine and used to whatever the Infinity engine has, but compare that to the casual hold boost to win fan and they'll be lost. I just feel like for this one level, it could have been baby hold your hand mode. But for those like me, used to the engine, I only read the hints to see what they said, not to flex or anything, but I just wanted to experience the game. So after looking up the controls, I just pushed every button, got adjusted, and I was in. I do love the fact that they added a GTA like camera distant changer select button like thing, so if you want to be closer to the action or if you wanted a better view for those more high speed segments in the game. Also in the menu, there's an option called just KYS.
Oh no!
Do not do this, especially after the very first cutscene. Otherwise, you're gonna have to see the whole scene all over again, and I don't know if you could skip it. I was still kind of on the out-of-date version for the time. But overall, this was a good stage to use for starters. It has all the possible movement elements you would be doing while playing the game on foot and boosting your way through this fun adventure while using current and old movesets from past games. The first stage done and the act clear leading into the next cutscene transition that felt freeing to look at, and something I hope Sonic Frontiers can match the vibe to. As you can see in this cutscene, Sonic's just hanging around. Meanwhile, Tails is being dozed off from the last cutscene I kind of cut. But it basically explains how Sonic is clinging on a thread due to the fact that Chip's bracelet kind of saved him, I guess. Or just an overall explanation of why he has Chip's bracelet, why he's using it, and why it's actually going to be useful into the game, while being goofy within the mix. After another goofy Sonic X cutscene, Tails gets dismissed to go a different path from Sonic's, probably just to give the game an excuse to not have him around. Meanwhile, we're given a task to find Eggman's base of sorts by running through Chow Paradise, a beach that gives off both the wave ocean and Adabat feeling to it. Also, this stage will be used to showcase the chip bracelet that lets you swing from certain hooks in the game without losing your momentum. The music in this stage, or I should be honest, the whole entire game, is just high quality, and each stage has its own track that just fits well to it. But I would recommend having the music toned down a bit if you want to hear the characters' actual dialogue throughout levels. Another thing I should note is I felt off when I was running along the water, hit a spike, and I thought that was it. Just to go underwater and being able to continue the level from the water surface, which no Sonic game does nowadays, makes me wonder if Frontiers will have underwater exploration and just overall break the whole Sonic swimming taboo altogether. If Sonic X could do something like it, why not Frontiers? After reaching the base, we get a cutscene with Eggman laughing, boasting about his plans, and to be honest, I kind of blanked out when he was talking. But Sonic and Tails come across a giant computer in the Eggman base, and in good classic Sonic fashion, the third act was a boss fight. We fight a rundown version of Egg Dragoon, or how this game calls it, Dragoon E/0. One thing I can say with actual pride is the fact that the boss actually managed to defeat me. And it wasn't because of jank. What was weird about the fight was the fact that it was not only engaging, but the music, Sonic taunting, even though that's when the amateur voice acting really showed. But besides that, the dodging attacks, especially the sneak hammer attacks, lack of rings, the boost management, this boss basic but felt so good and had that enjoyable tension to it. And at first, I was thrown off by how little damage you do, but you add all the mentioned elements I stated, and you just don't care, and you feel pretty boss for what you're fighting against. I even got an S rank from this, and I'm pretty sure this was the only level I got an S rank in, which even that fact alone amazes me and adds the want for replayability just to get a better score on what you didn't get previously. So with the boss defeated, Sonic managed to use his brain in this cutscene, which is a huge step up from what the actual games have done, and basically tells Tails to use a piece from the Dragoon to track Eggman. Though I wouldn't approve of throwing the only device that's your only lead to who you're looking for at the person who needs to use it to track them. But some recklessness has to back up Sonic's intelligence, I guess. They succeeded in tracking Eggman at the Grand Canyon, no less. The next scene, we see the new and improved X-Tornado, and this time Sonic has an actual seat to sit in, unlike what Unleash had. But as usual, Sonic takes the floor to investigate. This part in the game raised a few questions since Gun is here, but once again, they're attacking Sonic, which I found weird since he literally just pieced the Earth back together. And this is how they thank him? I just hope, since the gun robots have bright, menacing red eyes, this means they're either hacked by someone or someone in the background is pulling the strings behind the scenes of some sorts. But the whole hidden base aesthetic works well here. Desert area, secret passage, way inside the base, it just fits like some Area 51 or something. I also noticed the gritty detail that if Sonic stomps, that he actually cracks the floor underneath him. So, you know, might want to lay off those chili dogs from earlier. Even Tails mentions the fact that he's eaten too much, and Sonic himself saying that he can just always burn it off.
I could use the cardio.
So just like any other top secret base, it leads to an underground passage, with the gold ring being in front of a menacing mural with a Cthulhu-like looking beast with the emeralds around it, clearly foreshadowing something after a few more game updates in the future, hopefully. So I would kind of assume they're going for that Sonic 3 and Knuckles kind of vibe. Now this level was a literal game changer that I have to remind everyone that this was when I was still playing the out-of-date version, so maybe they fixed the whole flying in this section, but in all honesty, it was a welcoming surprise, rage moments aside. I could try this again with an up-to-date version, but I couldn't really find a reason to do that, me feeling lazy at the time. But considering it has like a puzzle to progress further to it, definitely gave me that Rayman 2 vibes for that one level where you had to navigate a pirate ship out of the blue, and I guess that nostalgia made me enjoy it. Even when I did die due to the out-of-date version janky BS. Also, I don't know if it's because I was on the out-of-date version, but I found it really weird that after playing Sonic, it's just Shadow's turn to play as right out of the blue, like no cutscene, no context, just Shadow. So there is that. But besides that jank out of the way and weird physics, the whole puzzle setup before progressing through the level was different. Welcoming, sure, it just really sucked flying through the cave and not trying to crash every few seconds. But it's like I said, maybe they patched it out. I don't know. I still haven't tried to play it yet. I'll probably play it some more for myself and enjoy it, but just a heads up. So after clearing the stage, we see Eggman for a brief moment before some Anubis-looking tentacle monster yeets him away, and Sonic and Tails enter a chase sequence for the next level. Not much is different from the flying from the previous level with Shadow, but the area is more different since it's a chase level that, from what I played, it wasn't really too much of a rush. I don't think there's much consequences for taking too long other than a poor ranking score. And really the out-of-date version I played before updating caused me to crash a lot, so timing didn't matter and slow and steady was the best option for me. So once you're out, you enter a boss fight in a somewhat Star Fox 64 all range mode, so just dodge the attacks and eventually you will defeat the boss. If you did struggle to escape, don't worry, there's a checkpoint once you're out and a few health boxes to help out when fighting the boss, so there's also that if you do end up struggling. So in the cutscene they have next is Eggman survives and conveniently flies away for Sonic and Tails to see, while the camera smartly pans down to reveal the same mural underground Area 99 had, with a somewhat suspiciously familiar sounding voice with a metallic hand touching the mural as the screen turns to black. That cutscene was some genius foreshadowing. I really look forward to who this hand belongs to. Also, the Big the Cat Easter egg was unexpected. But besides that, we're in a jungle area with Sonic and Tails flying through it. And at this point, I'm still wondering why Gun is after these two and why to such lengths. They split up again, Sonic on foot to distract the gun bots somehow. Meanwhile, Tails is in the air with a giant jet plane. Makes sense, I guess. Makes sense. Yeah, that totally makes sense. You get a nostalgic Adventure 2 stage in the jungle, but with a rainy, dark, low-lit level. I want to honestly say it's a one-to-one recreation, minus some places not included, but overall, it's a pretty linear stage that's fun to breeze through. And if you played the jungle stage from Adventure 2, it should feel just like home. You should have no problem navigating through it, besides maybe the different mechanics and whatnot. Now for Tree Palace, the level you should probably update your game version if you haven't already, and if you want to progress further. Because there is one last part in the level where you run on the wall, but I guess the out-of-date version just wasn't optimized for it. But it was a lot of problems for many people, even online when you look it up sometimes. But the Discord said, just update the game and just like that, you'll be fine. Just wanted that heads up to be clear, because this is what made me realize that I was using the out-of-date version, even though I could have sworn I had the most up-to-date. So with that headache out of the way, as a tower level, it's pretty good, and probably the only time you'll use the just KYS option in the pause menu, because falling and falling after climbing high up, it just makes it faster to just KYS. Start from the last checkpoint you've been through. It's a good level. It's not as bad as people online may make it out to be. I'd even say people who think it's bad probably didn't update the game and got stuck like I did and gave it up altogether. LOL. Also, reminder, the water will not insta-kill you and you actually need to go into it in order to progress. And no worries, there are enough air bubbles around for you to get when you need to go back up. While platforming through the level, I couldn't help but appreciate the slower platforming. With the pleasant music in the background, the multiple routes to take, almost as if I was a kid trying to climb up a tree and not fall 5 stories high. Just minus the ability to swing around branch to platform. I do wish the branches alongside the level's walls wouldn't cause you to slide as a method to make a unique stealth path for players to try out, similar to an exploit in the game for speedrunners, since apparently that's an ongoing thing, which is pretty neat when you think about it.
Almost there.
The next scene we're given acts as an Indiana Jones reference. Quick and to the point, grab the emerald and transition straight to the next level, where we have to escape from a flooding forest or something like that. Not gonna lie, it was hard to tell what was going on and at what direction you were running. It kind of looked like you were running down or up the tree, or maybe by its side. It was really too hard for me to really understand. All I knew was it was fun, you got to run, and I died a few times within the process. And within the first 30 seconds, no doubt. It just confused me, but it was still fun. I do know, unlike the escape from the gnarl level, this one actually mattered when it came to speed and not falling behind, or else a notable blue filter will show up, making everything all around the screen blue, and given the level coloring, it could be hard to tell when that was actually happening. But if you get hit a few too many times, you might just end up dying anyways. This level is massive, but not at the same time. The hoops you go through showcases all you'll be running through, and just having that in the air scenery was perfect and free feeling. Enjoying the scenery aside, make use of the boost you have, just go fast. It felt like there were no consequences for using it, and it added more to what the level was going for, even if it is just a minute long. Yeah, the level really was pretty short. In this scene, I think Tails saving Sonic from trouble was a good touch to add in. It's a classic, and it's not like he hasn't done it before. The small moment felt refreshing, seeing Tails not cowering like a bitch. So the emeralds flash while the camera pans to Shadow, and then Eggman seeing what just happened to the emeralds as Sonic and Tails crash to the surface, because I'm assuming with the flash that the emeralds had, Tails passed out or something. We don't really get a continuation to their story. So in the next scene, it shows Shadow walking through a gun doorway, which ties in that Shadow is still working for the government. And I'm guessing it also acts as a prequel to everything that happened so far, since the level is Shadow's in his training grounds, I'm guessing. So I will say the voice for Shadow is fine, but they really need to tone down that accent and probably add more Shadow-like dialogue, because if it's going for the timeline that Shadow works for Gun, it should also work with Shadow's development from Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, and not have his dialogue seem like he's a cocky asshole who gets annoyed by everything. Shadow knows he's the ultimate life form, but canonically, he never uses that as a reason to seem like a prick to anyone, even if the person giving him commands is an AI, or as his dialogue would say,
Is this machine really telling you where to go?
it was just, that line just really sucked. Shadow is far from the edgy character the internet makes him out to be, especially for where this timeline places him. The Shadow's gameplay is pretty unique from Sonic's. The skate animation is best hands down, and you get 4 different chaos moves: Chaos Blast, Spear, Control, and Dash. For this level though, I'd recommend just having Dash on the whole time. It gives you an advantage when it comes to platforming, and it will save you out of some falling situations. As long as you have some chaos in the chaos gauge, which with that I feel like could have been done better. Instead of having a chaos meter that doesn't tell you when you have enough to use the chaos move, use meter boxes with a numbering system just so you know when you can and cannot use a particular move. And maybe add a different color to differentiate when you can actually use it. The design to the level is neat, if not a little too dark. They included the gun truck from SA2/Generations and gave it a few spec facts that just let you know it's literally only there as an Easter egg. Also, because that room is constantly rotating, I ended up going back the way I came from, and I didn't notice until I fell down a path I was familiar with. Just locate the door on the same floor as the gun truck to proceed. The level without any errors is a good 5 minutes or so with your first go, but you may die here and there a couple times, if I'm gonna be completely honest. So for this scene, it's pretty questionable, and not because the voice acting, which is really questionable, but it's shrouded in a literal dark mystery. Gun higher ups who are faceless just don't seem like the good guys here at all. But also Shadow gritting his teeth as if he wants to say something but just can't, turns around with that same metallic hand from earlier, hands him an emerald with a semi-revealing face reveal, or just, I guess you could say, a mask reveal, which should come up in future updates, revealing why things feel so corrupt here and who that person is. I still feel like it could be the Metarex, but that's just a theory. Again. Okay, now that that's over, Shadow's driving through a poisoned water forest with gun bots behind him, which is probably a sign that he's being watched, and a few Eggman bots get it bad here. And the thing I notice is how Sonic fights against gun bots while Shadow fights against Eggman bots, while Gun keeps him under watch. As Shadow contacts Rouge, who looks like she's in the president's office, probably in her stealth outfit, which hopefully means she's undercover, helping Shadow out to uncover what's really going on while he's forced to do what he clearly doesn't want to do. The level seems to be an original one. They make use of the pollution aesthetic by having certain parts have oxygen meters, but they're only for a brief time. Could have did without the edgy,
Where did this damn fog come from?
but it did make me realize they probably used Shadow's SA2 voice as inspiration for his accent, really. The level has its fair share of puzzle-based platforming, which really requires precision. Few switches here and there, some echidna statues, some mushrooms that replace springs, which is a neat touch and also fits the poisoned forest environment, and overall the level is a poisoned ancient ruin you traverse through. You might get a little lost, but you should be fine by now. Also, there's a JoJo reference in this game, and an eye within good justice just blew everything up because of it, and instantly went to the goalpost and just never looked back. The next scene shows that Shadow just conveniently now decides to pass out from the poison as he trips, and we get a glimpse of, I'm assuming it has to be Maria, and he once again wonders what the vision is. So I guess they're going with that same route again, but he fails to really contact Rouge as the ground falls in, and he drops the emerald in the pit, which activates the final boss of this version. The boss, in which looks similar to the creature on the mural. The first phase is pretty easy as long as you maintain rings and dodge attacks. You have enough height to attack it and juggle from attacking and using the vine to stay in the air. So after getting the boss's health to half, we enter an escape sequence to surface, and the last phase is no different from the first besides spitting nasty green goo at you. Just repeat what you did before and it'll be easy work to it. Though I do have to ask if Shadow could have just released his ring gauntlets and end the fight. Why didn't he just do that? But I get it, it's video game logic, so I'll allow it. And the last convenience comes flying by as Shadow says,
Doctor.
Daughter? Not doctor, but daughter. I know I can't be the only one that heard daughter and not doctor. But other than that, Shadow gives chase as the corpse of the boss we just beat begins to light up and the game goes into the credits. So with all that said and done, that has been Sonic Omens for now. A game with mixed reactions for the wrong reasons, as well as the grand old quote-unquote overrated that some people would use for it. I for one enjoyed my time. Would have enjoyed it more if I had it updated all the way from the get-go, but I digress. This game is pretty awesome, and I love what people have made out of the Sonic Infinity engine so far. I remember watching Oban upload videos on the progress for it, and I may not know the reasons to why they stopped, but knowing Oban released it in the end just so we can have this game as well as others that use the engine as a base is just what was expected from dedicated fans that really are as passionate to this franchise. Only thing I'd ask for, or what I hope gets worked on, would be bigger monitors, a homing attack that works more like in the adventure series and not having to rely on locking onto enemies, especially if they aren't in the direction facing the camera. Maybe some drifting, better spin dashing since it is in the game, but just a little wonky at the moment, as well as a drop dash would be neat. The short hop, aka tap jump animation, so he's not always constantly going into the spin ball. Jumping into a ball is nice and all, but most official games have decided that it just makes sense to have it so jumping a short height feels natural. And lastly, make it so enemies respawn after you die. Don't know if the update version had that since I didn't die as much later on, but if it wasn't a thing, it'd be a good thing to add. And also the whole shadow accent thing, like I can understand if they were going with the Sonic Adventure 2 type of accent of him like disappear and stuff like that, but it just doesn't work. It doesn't work anymore. So yeah, that was Sonic Omens, a game I brushed off for 2 years, and I'm actually glad for it since I got to play it with more content into it. Hopefully they are continuing the project and maybe even go the Sonic GT route of being able to make their own IP game from what they were able to do with this. It feels good knowing people can make successful workings from this series, from Sonic before and after the sequel to the Spark series, from Sonic GT to Project Rascal, and of course Sonic Mania. This is a good thing happening, and seeing more of it is an awesome movement. I definitely enjoyed this gaming experience, but until next time, like I always say, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever where you may reside. I hope you're doing good, and if not, in due time, hope things get better for you, your loved ones, and etc. Until next time, Happy New Year's, peace out, and have a good one.